God doesn't thunder here, he just lets a strange phrase drift by. Sons of God like a glint of light on water, and then the story keeps moving. Genesis 6 is only a handful of lines, but it opens a window right before the flood. The sons of God see that the daughters of humans are beautiful. They take wives any they chose. And then, almost casually, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days. Are they a species, a rumor, or a nickname people whispered? Who are we supposed to imagine? And why won't the text pause to explain? When you see the biblical background, the first clue is that sons of God isn't just poetic. In Job, the same phrase appears in a heavenly scene, beings gathered in God's presence. In the ancient context of the Bible, that fits a world that pictured a layered cosmos, with a boundary between heaven and earth. So when Genesis uses the phrase, it invites a question without forcing an answer. Is a border being crossed? But there's another detail. Genesis never says angels. It says B'nai Elohi, and the original Hebrew meaning shows us that Elohim can flex God, gods, or spiritual beings depending on context. That built-in range is the point. The line stays open enough for wonder, not just fear. You can feel the narrator's restrained time telling you what happened, not handing you a label. Then the wording turns sharp. They took his quick, almost mechanical. No names, no romance, just choice and grabbing. In the ancient context of the Bible, that kind of language often signals power, not tenderness. So another reading has always stood nearby. Maybe sons of God is political speech, kings or elites claiming divine status, collecting women as proof of dominance. If that's the case, the passage isn't trying to scare you with monsters. It's spotlighting a world where humans play God. And that raises a quiet question: what kind of world needs that claim? Now the word everyone circles Nephilim. Many hear giants, because later tradition goes there. But the original Hebrew meaning shows us that the root may connect to falling. Not a biology label, more like a reputation. Genesis pairs it with Gibborim, mighty ones, the famous men of old. That sounds like legend, like the heroic stories cultures told to make violence sound glorious. When you see the biblical background, you notice what Genesis does with that hero talk. It doesn't celebrate it, it drains it. The text doesn't linger on bodies or battles because it's tracking something quieter. The erosion of limits, categories blur, desire becomes entitlement, strength becomes a brand. And that raises a bigger question: why place this small, shimmering mystery right before the flood? Because the flood story is about uncreation. The ordered world slides back toward chaos waters. In the ancient context of the Bible, creation is separation: light from dark, sea from land, kinds from kinds. Genesis 6 hints that separations are collapsing. Heaven and earth feel too close, and power swallows the vulnerable. The fog in the wording isn't a bug, it's a warning sign. But there's another detail the mystery echoes later. In Numbers, frightened spies say they saw Nephilim, and suddenly the word becomes a tool. It shrinks courage. It inflates danger. Whether they were exaggerating or borrowing an old legend, the result is the same. A story controls the present. How many decisions get made because of a name people can't quite define? And Genesis still won't pin it down. Instead, right after this scene, God limits human days to 120 years, either a lifespan horizon or a countdown. Either way, a boundary is set again. Time becomes the fence. So who were the watchers here? Divine beings, divine claiming rulers, or a deliberate blur that exposes how we mythologize power? Some mysteries aren't invitations to decode. They're invitations to notice where lines are meant to hold. Which option feels most believable to you and why? If you want more bright mysteries like this, check out other videos on this channel.